Hey, it's me, Magical Shantae 888. I just thought that I'd pop on for a quick video. Um, I'm just checking the lighting to see which one I like better. I think I like this one. Anyways, so yeah, it was just on my mind to do almost kind of like a story time, but kind of like a chit chat too. Um, yeah, it's almost like a chit chat, but a story time. So, um, while I, okay, so how do I start? Let me see. So I'm always on YouTube and I follow these particular content creators that basically stitch TikTok stories about different things, mostly women related, relationship related. And it's crazy because it all comes into alignment because this morning as I was showering, I had the idea to kind of do the story time. And then once I got on YouTube, I saw something that was related to this story time that I want to share. So um, at this point, like, I realized that it was a lesson, and I'm grateful that I went through this situation. I'm grateful that I had the wisdom to get out of the situation quickly because it could have turned into something not good at all. But yeah, so basically, it was in between a time that I was back and forth with the father of my children. And during that time, it was a wild time. It was a wild time. And this was a few years ago. This was 2020, 2021. And so, yeah, we broke up or whatever. And it was a traumatic one for me. Traumatic AF, okay? You would think that after that I would have learned my lesson and just would have left well enough alone. But no, I had to run back and just try to figure things out and think that I could fix things. Anyways, um, so in between that time, I met someone, and this someone was tall and handsome and chocolate. He was bald. He was fine. Okay, he was real fine. Um, but at the time that this person met me, I was in a transitional state. So anytime I tell a story or anytime I say something, there's a point, okay? And I may bring this point up several times in the story, but the biggest point and my biggest finding is when you're going through a breakup or you're going through, a breakup, you really have to take time to like get to know you again and get to know what you like, get to know what you'll accept, what you won't accept, because if you don't, you'll accept anything. So, so I meet this guy or whatever. He's about 10, 11 years, hell, maybe even like 15 years older than me. Low key, but high key, he was old enough to be my dad, but not quite as old as my parents. He was in his 40s. I was in my early 30s. He was in his mid 40s, mid to late. I think he was like 46. I was 32. And so, I was thinking like, okay, well, an older person, older guy would be better because, it would just be better. And I was wrong because this person was a hobosexual. Again, and a very attractive one at that. So it's like you would not think. And this person had their own business. They also worked regularly. So it was just like, it was easy for them to mask it. And they drove a Benz. So it's like all of those things considered, why would you think that this person does not have a place to live? Okay, let me tell you how and why I found that out. So we were talking, he love bombed me. We talked every day, all day. He was love bombing me hard, like real hard. I began having a few issues with my car, and he actually worked at a place where um, he could get auto parts. He was actually an auto parts deliverer. Um, and so he was friends with some of the people that he would deliver parts for. And so he was going to help me get my car fixed. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I know that there would have been some sort of twist and catch. Um, but I found out that he didn't have a place to live when we were talking, and he was just like, oh, yeah. He told me some story about how um, he had like a either between a 2 and a 5-year-old, and he was married to a Latina, and she took his kid and ran. And so initially I was just like, oh no, like that's not nice, that's not fair, like that's not something that I would ever do. And still I would not intentionally, not unless I felt like I had to, not unless I felt like there was a threat. Okay, remember that. So um he we were talking or whatever, and then there were just a few times that he was just lying about stuff. And it's like, as a woman, you have an intuition. You call it your gut feeling, call it your spidey senses. I call it all of the above. He called me and he had some bogus story about how one of his family members was in the hospital and something. I guess he was looking for sympathy, or I don't know what the hell he was looking for. But my response was just like, oh, well, I hope you figure that out. Like, I don't know. I didn't really respond in the way that he wanted me to respond. And so we had talked later on that day, and I don't remember what transpired, but the nigga started yelling at me. And I was just like, and so I was laughing as he was yelling at me, and he was like, I'm not one of these guys that you can play with, and da da da. And I was just like, but where is this coming from though? Like, where is this coming from? I'm going through a lot, and I'm going through a lot. And he just started going on and on and on. And I was just like, I was so confused, because I'm just like, what do I have to do with what you're going through? I didn't, but all along, I just knew he was lying. And so from there, he proceeds to tell me how, like, I don't even think we really talked about like where he was living, but he just kind of voluntarily told me that he was staying with a cousin. And he was like, yeah, I'm staying with my cousin, um, and I'm not sure, how much longer I'll be able to be there, because they have stuff going on and da da da. And I was just like, okay. But it just didn't dawn on me that he was like low key but high key trying to groom me to like move. And so, he told me all this stuff on the very first day. Again, love bombing. I want to take care of you. I want to do this, yada yada yada. Like, and he was asking me, and this is another thing. Don't ever share with these men or with anybody your real goals and things that you really want to do, because they'll take it and they'll use it against you later, or they'll take it and they'll try to make it seem like, yeah, I can help you make that happen. Okay. Which I was just talking, we were having conversation. It felt so good to actually talk to someone who I felt like would listen. And yeah, he was telling me all this stuff, promising me all this stuff about how he wanted to, take care of me. He knew that I had 3 kids at the time. And so he was like, yeah, I want to take care of you, help take care of your kids, and da da da. And it sounded so good. It did. It sounded real good. I promise, if I was any younger, if I was about 25 and in that same situation with 3 kids, I would have fully fell for it. Okay. But yeah, so he was love bombing me and all this stuff. And then he started talking about, yeah, well, I want to move, and I wanted to know like if you would help me, kind of look for a place. And I was just like, okay. And so this is 2 weeks in talking to this guy, and everything just moved so fast. It's like it moved so fast, and yet it was so familiar. It was a familiar spirit. And that's another thing that I've learned is that if it's familiar, like, you should probably run from it. Like, it's not safe if it's familiar. Not all the time. So I was going with the flow or whatever. During that time, my mom was gonna have surgery, and he was really supportive. He was like, "Oh, I hope that I'm praying for your mom. I'm hoping that things go well." And da da da. Again, I can give you the time frame for this. This was 2021, February 2021. I had stopped working at the job that I was at, and then I had gotten hired at this other job almost instantaneously, which was such a blessing. I had gone through a lot. Like I said, I went through a breakup, and it was chaotic as hell. My life was just transitioning just so quickly. But it was good transitions. And so I messed around and told him, yeah, I got hired at this job. It's going to be significantly more money than I was getting at my last job. And so that was his cue to be like, okay, boom. So yeah, we started talking about possibly moving in together. Listen, he was love bombing the out of me because I was really thinking like, wow, maybe this is going to be the person that I'm going to be with. Like, he's older, he's handsome, he drives. Like, I was looking at the exterior, like I was looking at the outside of things. And that's another thing. Don't ever go by, hold on, let me check my eggs. That's the eggs, they're done. When you make that noise, that was the eggs. Yeah. Don't ever go by what a guy says, what he looks like. You have to only go by actions, okay? And so up until this point, he had not shown me any actions. He promised me that we were gonna go on a date, and we never got around to it. Thank God we didn't. Thank God we didn't. And again, the time frame of this is from like mid-January up until about, I think I stopped talking to him like April 2021. So it was a very short run. It may have been even quicker than April. It may have, like, I think I stopped talking to him like the second week I was at that job. But anyways, so yeah, we were talking about moving in together, and he had me looking for apartments and stuff on another side of town, which I was familiar with because I had lived on that side of town before, but I wasn't really interested in living on that side of town at that particular time. He just, and I'm not gonna sit here and make it seem like, oh, he was just so bad to me. No, because I willingly went for it. And again, thankfully, I didn't go for it like long term, or like it wasn't something that I did forever. But I was bamboozled for a little bit, and it was because I wanted to be a part of this illusion of like having someone who will take care of me, someone who will take care of my children, and like, but now I know like no man or any other human being can do that for me. Only I can do that for me. Like, it doesn't mean that I don't expect the person that I'm with to do that or contribute in a large way, but know that I'm doing my part too. And this is the thing. He knew that I had resources. At that time, I was getting food stamps, and a nice amount for 3 kids. And it was during the pandemic. So the food stamps and stuff were high, okay? You were getting a lot. There were just a lot of extra subsidies that you could get. And so I knew that he looked at me and thought that I was a lick or I was the plug. So yeah. But basically how it all ended was we were supposed to go on a date. It was Valentine's Day. We were supposed to go on a date on Valentine's Day, and the winter freeze happened. And I was gonna let him stay the night at my house because my kids, I don't think, were my kids there? No, for some reason, I think my kids were at their grandma's house over that weekend. And then I had picked them up that Sunday. But we were supposed to go on a date that weekend and we didn't. But thankfully, I got my kids and we got home when we did, because that night after, the freeze happened. I don't remember exactly the dates, but I just know the time that I was supposed to go on the date with him, my kids were not there. They were with their grandma, one of them. Um, and yeah, so basically after the freeze happened, like we were talking and stuff during the freeze, my mom went to go have surgery. She was in the hospital when this all happened, the freeze. And I think they had electricity and stuff. They had to have. But on our side of town, we didn't have electricity. But on my great aunt's side of town, we did. And so my uncle came to pick me and my kids up, and we stayed there for like a week. But he and I talked, and I don't know, just after that, it just kind of wasn't the same. And I knew then that I dodged a bullet, because my life was going to be screwed up. Because I was really, days before the freeze and when we were going to go on this date, like I was really thinking like, oh my God, that like this could be the one. I can I can laugh now about it, but like I was really thinking like this could be the one. Like we could be the match made in hell. Okay? But like I was really thinking like, man, this could be the one for me, and like I could get married. And this is the thing. I was so hung up, and even up until a few years ago, I was so hung up on getting married that like I was willing to freaking accept anything. Okay? Not now, not ever. Okay? No. But yeah. Um Anything else? Anything else? I'm trying to think. Okay, so how I realized that this person was abusive is that um, he was in my living room. I think this was the weekend that we were supposed to go on the date. Either that or something, but I know my kids were not there. We were talking, and I was joking about something with him, and this face that he made, his jaw clenched up so tight. Like you would have thought that I told him that I hurt someone or hurt, I don't know. Like he clenched up his jaw and he made this face. And I remember it vividly. And he looked at me. And I knew immediately that that was the face that he made whenever he was probably abusing his ex-wife. I'm almost certain that she left because this person is abusive. I don't have to have the facts. I don't. I just know what I know, okay? And yeah, like it was at that time that I was just like, girl, if you don't get away from this man, because he is going to not only ruin your life, but you might end up unalive because of the way that this man is. There's a reason why he's single. And on top of that, this just, I don't know. It just, everything was too much too soon. And I now know, that anybody trying to move too fast, there's something, first of all, they don't have boundaries, okay? And there's something that they're hiding. So know yourself. When you're jumping out of a relationship, I know they say the quickest way to get over someone is to get under someone new. Not if you haven't healed. Not if you haven't healed, okay? Don't let these people out here have you ruining your life because you're trying to get under someone new. Ruin your life or end it, because it's dangerous out here, okay? I dodged a bullet, a big one, because who knows? Like, what if I would have ended up having a kid by this person and he would have been in my life for the rest of my life? It's enough that I have the person's children that I have. I love my kids. I do. I love them. I love them down. I love them. Um, but if I knew some things, I just would have done some things differently. Um, Again, it doesn't mean that I would trade them or anything. Like, I just would be a little wiser with certain things. But yeah, um, that's my story time. It's probably all over the place. Like, I just know that I dodged a bullet, okay? I dodged a freaking bullet. I know that there is a God. I know that there's a higher power. I know that I have people that have my back, because the situations that I found myself in as a young woman and coming into womanhood, some women may not have been able to live to tell it, or they would just be completely destroyed, mental destroyed, just destroyed. And I'm so grateful that I'm resilient and that I chose better for myself in all aspects. Even with what I'm going through now, I chose better for myself. I showed up for myself. I implore you to do the same. If you met someone and things are moving too fast, you have to stop, you have to pause, and you have to really think, like, is this for the betterment of me? Is this for the betterment of me? Um, yeah. I don't know why I found it. I don't know why that was put on my heart, my brain to share, but I'm past the point of like really being embarrassed about it. At some point, we've all been a fool. Everybody plays the fool. We do. We all do. Okay? So I'm not embarrassed to say there's nothing that anybody could try to say about me regarding that situation that would have me feel embarrassed or feel like I shouldn't share it. No, because people need to know. Young women need to know. You need to know. Know yourself before you get out here trying to date. It can save your freaking life. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Okay? If you don't do nothing else, make sure that you love yourself first. Okay? Before you decide to have kids, before you decide to marry that man, do what you got to do for you first. Okay? If that's a career, if that's traveling, do those things first. Find your own happiness first. All right? Anyways, I just thought this is my first story time. I probably have, not probably, I have plenty more, but that was one that I know needed to be shared, because somebody needs to know. Somebody needs to know. Um, yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll check you on the next one. Peace.